It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie Kay.
Good evening and welcome everyone to Onyx News. We are here every Friday. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and tonight we have an unusual program in that we are going to be discussing things and we're also going to take your comments. We would like to hear about your sightings of creepy things. And so I've got a special guest host tonight, but before I bring him in, I want to remind you that the KUNX calendar is available at the website unxnetwork.com. If you don't have yours yet, head on over there and get your calendar. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, including some really weird, odd dates. So, you probably have not heard of some of this stuff, but, I don't know, ghostly refrigerator day and things like that. So it's kind of cool. Hope you enjoy it. So I'm going to bring my special surprise guest host in here tonight, Mr. Dan Terry. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Margie, and good evening, guys and ghouls. How are we all doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and I'm so glad you could join me tonight because this is a little bit of an unusual show for me, and I thought it would be fun to have you on because you're such an expert when it comes to ghostly stuff.
Ghosts I can handle, you bet. And just got to say real quick, for Race when he's watching, I'm wearing the shirt from St. Augustine, Florida with the ghost building a sandcastle on the beach. Just because he's got a thing about my shirts. He really goes nuts over my shirts.
Okay, well, Race is not here this evening. He is out for Valentine's Day, taking an evening off. So I'm producing tonight. If we have any errors, it's completely my fault. All right, we already have some comments going on here. But what I want to do is just start off with my own sighting. And this is what kind of triggered this show, because I saw something extremely bizarre that I cannot explain in December. And what it was, well, I don't know what it was. So I'm gonna talk about it and I'll see if anybody knows what it is. So I was driving south on this main street in Independence called Sterling, just south of Truman Road, and it was about 10:30 p.m. at night. I was by myself. I was headed home. There were no other cars around me at the time. So if anyone else saw this, I doubt it. I saw a tall, thin, creepy humanoid thing with a big hunch on its back. It almost looked like a backpack. When I first saw it, I thought it was a person with a backpack. Then I soon realized it had very long arms that reached below the knees. So its hands reached way below the knees. It was walking across the street from east to west. The hair stood up on the back of my neck instantly. I got this really creepy feeling. And then it did something completely bizarre. As it was walking, it got to the middle of the street. Then it was suddenly back where it started from. So there was no walking back or anything like that. It just was back there. And so they started walking again. It got about 3/4 of the way through the street and it suddenly was back again, went backwards, and then went back to where it was and went forward again. It did this 3 times as it's walking across the street. I'm realizing, oh no, this is not normal at all. This is out of some kind of Stephen King movie. I'm getting the creeps. And I by this time I had my car stopped because I don't want to get near this thing. So it did. It reached the edge of the sidewalk, and it got down on the ground, and it was just had this big hunch on it, on its back. I realized it wasn't a backpack. It was hooded. It had a hoodie on, so I couldn't see the face. It never turned to look at me. It just kept looking straight ahead as if there was no cars on the street, and that there's no crosswalk there either. And I realized that it was what some people are calling a wraith. I had just recently seen some things on TV about it, and that's what it was. I was very thin, uh, humanoid looking, but the arms were too long, the legs were too thin, and oh god, it just really weirded me out. And as I drove past it, it got low to the ground, and it actually looked smaller than it did originally. 'Cause originally, I'd say it was about 7 feet tall,
Mhm.
and even though it was on the ground, it looked smaller than it should have been. It looked more like the size of a child. And but I didn't stop to see anymore. Do you blame me, Dan?
I don't blame you at all, but I would have had to get out and chase the thing. And I've chased some pretty weird looking stuff just because I gotta know.
Well, you're braver than I am.
And
I
I'm
will.
always armed. That helps.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is that. There is that. I don't carry my gun all the time, but I really am going to start doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if a firearm would have done any good against some supernatural thing, right?
Probably not, but it's a comfort. So
Yeah, yeah. It does give you a little bit of comfort. Gosh. Okay, so I thought that was the end of it, but
Yeah.
just this week on Nextdoor Independence. Now, Nextdoor is an app. If you guys don't know what this is, it's an app that you can download, and it's a social media thing just for your location, like just your neighborhood or just your city. So I'm on Nextdoor Independence, and this person posts something. And here's what he posted. I'm reaching out to share and inquire about some peculiar events that have been occurring in my neighborhood lately, which has left me quite concerned and admittedly a bit unnerved. Over the past few weeks, there have been several instances where unexplained rustling sounds have been coming from my backyard, typically late at night. And I will interject here that I have also heard the same things going on at my house. It's not just the wind or the usual nocturnal animals we're all used to. This sounds different, almost like deliberate movements. Additionally, I'm sure many of you have heard the continuous distressed barking of a dog. It's a bit unnerving to hear the barking so incessantly, and it seems as though it's frightened by something. This isn't isolated, as I've noticed similar behavior in other parts around the area. The most unsettling incident occurred just a few nights ago. Curiosity finally got the better of me, and I decided to investigate the noises from my backyard. Here we go, Dan. This is you going out. All I had was the flashlight on my phone, and I went into my backyard hoping to find a simple explanation. However, what I encountered was really creepy. I caught a glimpse of what appeared to be a human-shaped silhouette. It was lurking just out of clear view, and before I could react or call out, the thin thing vanished over the back fence with an agility that seemed unnatural. It jumped a 6-foot fence in one leap while standing right next to it. I'm not one to jump to conclusions or indulge in crazy conspiracy theories, but these occurrences have left me with more questions than answers. And so, of course, he reached out to other people to see if they had seen anything similar, and several people did reply. And they said that they had seen some strange things all over Independence and Sugar Creek. And this area is known for weird things, UFOs, ghosts, paranormal stuff, just on a constant basis for many years. And, I think I might know why this is, but one of the things is the Missouri River. So, Dan, you have some experience doing paranormal investigations, and are your hot spots typically near rivers?
They are. And my theory on that is, first off, there's the energy of the river and the limestone. But all civilizations start around a water source. So that's where the most history is. I've got 2 books just on the city of Herman. And I mean, we had, Civil War battles, Indian attacks. We had every disease known to man, diphtheria, cholera, come up the river. So because of where it's at, history, bad things seem to start right there by the river.
Bad things and good things.
Well, that's true. That's
true.
Right?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, we have to have water, right, to survive. Right. So I got on the internet, and this was pretty close to the body description, not the face because I couldn't see the face. But, the arms were that long. It was really creepy. And so then I looked up wraiths, and according to mythology.net, little is known about wraiths other than their power and despair. These creatures are a type of Scottish ghost that had a history in black magic and sorcery during its lifetime. Wraiths are said to be creatures that are created when something goes wrong in spellcasting. This is most often the result of a witch or wizard who tried, unsuccessfully, to extend the years of their lifespan or tried to manipulate time in some other form. The result is tragic. In some capacity, they get their wish. They are now immortal beings with incredible power. The price they pay, however, is extremely high. Their souls are taken away, and they are condemned to never reach the spirit realm. This is a terrible fate, considering that the spirit realm is often thought to be something similar to heaven in most cultures, and is at the very least considered to be an afterlife. Wraiths are denied this privilege and forced to wander between dimensions for eternity. Ooh, it'd be terrible to be a wraith, and it's also terrible to see one.
It almost sounds like a skinwalker in that it was due to the magic and the mistakes made that it became this way. Would you say that's similar?
Well, yeah, skinwalkers are typically Native American shaman who can shapeshift or have put a curse on another person. And so that, the magic part of it is pretty much the same. It's creepy, and I wish I had an answer, but it definitely was supernatural, something supernatural that happened.
And how was you feeling at that moment?
Feeling?
Yeah. When you see ghosts, most of us are like, oh, there's a ghost. But if it's demonic, we get that feeling around us that we've got to go. We've got to run.
Oh, yeah.
And what was you feeling around this thing?
I felt like it was a negative feeling, a dark energy. I knew something wasn't right. The hair stood up on my neck. And, my spidey sense was, stop the car, stop the car. And then after it got through, I just wanted to get home. So I went straight ahead. But thinking back on it now, I probably should have just backed the car up and went the other way because I don't know what that thing was capable of.
Yes.
Or what its intentions were. We have had a lot of strange things happening around this area, though. And the next thing that I want to mention is a place that has not very far from Independence. It's touching Independence, just north, and it is also near the Missouri River. So and as you all are probably familiar with my book, Winged Aliens, talking about the Mothman in Kansas City, the many sightings that have occurred here over the years. But this one is extremely unusual. In this one, a woman called me and she said, I hear you are studying Mothman and I want to have you check this out. I said, okay. And she said she was outside and she saw something very large with wings in a large tree in her yard, in her backyard. It was dark at night, but she could still clearly see the outline of this thing in the moonlight. And she kind of acted like she didn't see it. So she went into the house. This happened 3 nights in a row. And she finally got her nerve up to do something about it. So she contacted me. And she says, I just want to know what this thing is and what it wants in my yard. Why is it here? And she said, is this, a precursor to something bad that's going to happen? And is it going to happen to her or her family? That's what she was afraid of, because of course, she'd heard about all the Mothman stories. And I said, okay, well, let me remote view this. And she didn't know what that meant. So I explained it to her. And I said, I'm going to just sit here and I'm going to look at your house and your yard and inside your house. Okay. So I did that, and I tell her what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I said, okay, when you go in the front door, do you have to turn right and then go up a set of stairs in order to get to the second floor? She goes, yeah, that's right. It's right there on the landing. So I went up the steps. And what happens when I remote view something, whatever I'm looking for, I will just be guided there. It'll be like this line that I follow. So I wasn't just randomly looking around her house. I was being drawn to do that. And so the line then turned to the right, went down a hall. I said, okay, I'm going down a hall to my right, and there is a door at the end of the hall, and I believe that is your bedroom. She goes, yes, it is. How are you doing this? I said, don't be worried about that. This is something I've been doing for a long time. So I opened the door, went into her room. I see a set of windows across the way. There are 4 windows in a row. See her bed, but right directly to my left, just inside the door, is the closet. And I opened the closet door and look in, and I saw something I was never expecting in all of my years. I've never seen anything like this. There's a Mothman standing in the back of the closet with his head down and his wings down, and he was asleep. And I knew that he stayed there during the day, and then he came outside at night. And so I didn't tell her what I saw. Mm-hmm. I just described the room and asked her if everything was correct. And she said, yes, it is. And I said, have you noticed anything strange about your closet? She says, I wasn't going to tell you this because I was afraid you would think I was crazy. But I've seen a Mothman in my closet. So that was confirmation right there. Right. I saw what I saw. And that was really, really true. But I don't know of any other cases from other investigators. I've never seen anything online, no stories about that. It's just bizarre, and I can't figure out why. And they also seem to pick certain people to follow. So if it's like this, if you notice it notices you.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, I imagine when you're doing ghost hunting. Dan, does that kind of ring true?
There is always the possibility the ghost will follow you home. But what I have noticed is the more you ghost hunt and the more often you do it and the more, deeply you get into it, we start seeing shadow people everywhere. I had never seen a shadow person before my second ghost hunt. And now, walking down the street, driving down the road, passing a cemetery, you'll see shadow people darting around. It's got to be similar to the same thing. Are we just more open to it now?
Oh boy. Yeah. It sounds like it. It sounds like you're seeing more now than you used to.
By far. Yeah. The more I ghost hunted, the more shadow people I saw. The worst was a daytime. And it ran from one tree to another. These were decorative trees, maybe that big around, but it completely disappeared from, and that was a good 30 feet. My wife and I both watched it. It's like, did you see that? Yeah, we saw that. It was outside the Harney Mansion in Sullivan, which we was doing a ghost hunt that night. But the more we do this, the more obvious the shadow people come. And I wonder if Mothman's the same way.
It could be. It seems like the energy of the Mothman is now around me, and I've had several incidents with it as well. Just because I was investigating it and other
Mhm.
people's sightings, now, I've had, for instance, one event was I was on my deck and I had just spoken to a witness earlier in the day who told me about seeing a Mothman on 291 highway. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this was I don't know, maybe 9:30 at night, not real late. There's a street light on our street that's very bright and
Mhm.
it shines onto our deck. But I was sitting in the shadows, and all of a sudden I see this thing floating there that looks kind of like a body of something, and then this wing come up on the right side and stretch out, only the right side, and it looked like a bat wing.
Okay.
And I just looked at it, and it was huge. It covered up half of my deck, which is pretty big.
Mhm.
And I said, "What the heck is that?" And I jumped up, looked around the corner. There was nothing there. Nothing there. And it couldn't have been, it had to be something close. The way the light was, it couldn't have been an insect. That was way,
Okay.
way too small. It was something big. So I call my friend and a fellow investigator, Gene Walker, and I said, "Gene, you're not going to believe what just happened to me." I explained that to her, and she says, "Margie, I was going to call you tomorrow because that day at 3:30 p.m., so 6 hours difference, she was driving down 435 highway, and she saw this shadow come over, which she thought at first was a plane, but realized it was only the right side of the plane, the center and the right side of the plane, which wasn't a plane because the wing looked like a bat wing."
Okay.
So she first thought it was a plane, but it turns out it was something else. So now this thing has attached itself to her. And then the two of us had another incident happen, which was sometime later. We were driving to a conference. I was speaking at the Midwest Conference of the Unknown in Cape
Mhm.
Girardeau, and Jane was going along with me. So we're driving down I-70, and all of a sudden, my car starts shaking violently, and it was a brand new car. And she sees at the exact same time a shadow of a gigantic bird flying over the road. The shadow covers up the whole highway
Okay.
and then moves off to the right. But when she looked, she couldn't see anything. She saw nothing but the shadow. And this was daytime, bright sunlight, no clouds. And so I've come to realize that thing has attached itself to both of us now.
Mhm.
But kind of like the shadow people thing.
Yeah. Your description in the closet of the thing you saw just threw an idea in my head. Let me throw it out there.
Mhm.
From your description, I'm seeing this creature with the bat wings kind of curled up, sleeping, crouched down. Is that a gargoyle? Are they somehow related, or is there some kind of similarity to a gargoyle and a Mothman?
Well, the gargoyles, they're always depicted as creepy looking with wings.
Hmm.
At least most of them are. Some of them have wings. Some of them
Yeah.
don't, I suppose. I never thought that gargoyles were a real thing. But you know what? Anything's possible, right?
Wonder if that's where the legend of the gargoyles come from. Maybe Mothman's been around a lot longer than 1966.
Oh, oh yeah, by far.
Mhm.
Uh, when I was doing research for my book, I found things going back to the 1700s and even
Wow.
further. Because if you think about the thunderbird as well,
Yeah.
which is, a gigantic bird, and we've got petroglyphs that
Yes.
are thousands of years old of what looks like a thunderbird. And also in all of these cultures that weren't anywhere near each other,
Hmm.
all over the world. There's one in Washington, Missouri, at the state park. And I've got to go see that in person. I've got pictures of it, but I haven't been there in person yet. South America, Canada, Alaska. just all over. And how does that happen? They're seeing something. All of these cultures are seeing something that is similar. And in fact, I just saw something today, which I should have grabbed, but somebody saw a thunderbird right before a giant storm, before a big storm. And I think this was in Chicago.
Okay.
Or Illinois somewhere. Lon Strickler put that up on the Winged Cryptids Facebook group that I have. So, yeah, there's a lot. In fact, if you guys, want to see some stories, go to that Facebook group. You'll see some for sure. Okay, I can't believe this, but we're up for a break. So we'll take just a few minutes here, and we'll be back right after these messages.
All right.
Unlock the mysteries of the spirit realm with the new book, Meeting Wallace. In this channeled work by renowned psychic medium Larry Costa, the reader will delve into the profound wisdom of his spirit guide, Wallace. Together, they share the transformative journey of harnessing psychic powers from the celestial plane. Discover the extraordinary psychic gifts that have empowered Larry on his path, and immerse yourself in a thought-provoking and awe-inspiring read. Meeting Wallace is a groundbreaking endeavor, and it is a perspective seen through the eyes of a spirit guide. Discover the wisdom of the spirit realm alongside actual photographs of ghosts and spirit guides. Get the book Meeting Wallace by Larry Costa at Amazon.com. Debbie Ziegelmeyer is an experienced diver, dive trainer, and UFO investigator who has researched sites around the world that have water-related UFO activity. That even the Pentagon admits that there are unknown objects in the skies and underwater around the world. Debbie compiled an amazing book to catalog many of these sightings. The Alien Colonization of Earth's Waterways, a reference guide to UFO, USO, water-related activity, has received rave reviews by UFO researchers and the public. The book is available at Amazon.com. And we're back with Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and my co-host this evening is none other than Dan Terry, the host of Most Haunted. Dan, what is the creepiest thing that you have ever seen?
God, there is so much I'd love to discuss. I think, though, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up last year's XCon. I was sitting in the back. You had set me up a very nice table in front of the stage to sell my books. Michelle, is it Roos,
Uh-huh.
was right next to me. There, I don't even remember who was speaking. And there's a shadow person that just floats right across the room. The people on the stage saw it. We saw it. And how many reports did you get from the audience of seeing shadow people in that hotel?
Lots of reports.
Yeah.
Most of the activity, see, we had no idea that this place was haunted before we started this. And I've been going there for years with another fire investigation group, for my regular business.
Yeah.
And never had anything strange happen. Of course, our meetings are during the day. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but we were meeting during the day and night there for the conference. Yeah, a lot of people saw things on the ceiling, or flying around the stage, going in to the back rooms, or coming from the kitchen. And then one person told me that he saw a ghost in his room in the middle of the night, someone standing there staring at him. So after the conference was over, I went to one of our main banquet managers that was handling everything, and I asked her, anything weird happening around here? She goes, "Oh, yes, this place is very haunted." It was the last thing I was expecting to hear.
Yeah.
But she said there used to be a Howard Johnson's hotel at that site that was there for many, many years. And they also owned the hotel next to the Oasis. I think it's called the Campus Inn, something like that. And she said, that is very haunted. And those ghosts from there, a little girl ghost and a bellboy, come over and wander over to the Oasis. And so that's why the conference center is the most haunted area in the place, and the kitchen as well. So I bet they've got a lot more stories to talk about. I did research on the internet. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody has ever said that place was haunted. So yeah, we're going to actually do an investigation this year for XCon, and you're going to head a group, and Michelle Roos is going to head a group. And if we have enough people, or too many people, then I will as well. Maybe somebody else, but I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And as well as the paranormal theme on Friday, generally speaking, the talks that you and Michelle are going to do, and some other people, are geared to paranormal investigations, paranormal equipment. You're doing one on dowsing. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we should get evidence for sure.
Well, I got to talk to Michelle quite a bit, and she's incredible. She's just amazing. I'm so glad you got her a show on here now.
Oh yeah, I talked to her that evening at XCon. I said, Michelle, we need to get you on the network. So yeah, finally, she had her first show, and she's really good. She really knows her stuff about the darker energies, and she knows how to handle that. Oh, as we saw when the Mothman was on stage with me.
Yeah.
So, we were talking about how it follows me around. Well, it was there. She came up to me and she says, there's a Mothman standing right there. I go, yeah, I know. She had this spray that she made, and she sprayed me, and then she sprayed in that direction, and it backed off. So she's got magic anti-Mothman spray. Yeah, you can talk to Michelle about that. She's with RIP Paranormal in Riverside, Iowa. Wow. Paranormal is the name of the group. So, gosh, yeah, we've seen some weird things during all of our investigations, haven't we, Dan?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think one queso Shadow Man that really got me. My house was in New Haven, Missouri, was very haunted. It had a ghost there, but other than playing games and hiding some of my stuff, he was okay.
Okay.
My daughter was very young. I mean, very young, and she was sleeping in a playpen in the bedroom. I was actually doing dishes at the sink, look over, and I see the shadow person in the living room.
Oh.
And he saw me, and then he zipped out. And you know how those things move? They move like a snake's tongue. You don't even realize it till it's gone. It's just so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Ran into the bedroom, and within seconds, my granddaughter is screaming and crying. She has never woke up screaming. She was always woke up glad to be awake and wanting to see people.
Uh-huh.
I think she woke up and saw someone she didn't know standing there, and it scared her.
Well, yeah, I think a shadow person would scare anybody if they woke up and saw that.
And she may have seen him as he was in life. I have no idea. I only saw him starting to materialize once, and he disappeared. Usually he was just a shadow. But that one upset me because it upset her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when me and him had our come to Jesus meeting with a lot of foul language coming from me, but he never did that again.
Oh.
I had told him, do not ever show yourself to anyone but me. And he never did after that. Still like to steal my cooking spoons, but he never appeared again to any of the family. So,
well, that's good.
But that was one that it wasn't so much scary for me, except he scared my granddaughter, and that I can't put up with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You got to put your foot down.
Yeah. And I tell people that, and I'm sure you have too, when they ask about ghost problems, you're the human, you've got more power because we generate our own power. They do not. So you have to put them in their place.
Yep. You got to show them who's boss. Okay, we've got a question from James. Have either of you seen ghosts in occupied schools? Most schools are haunted.
They are. And I can't understand why, but they are. And right outside of your area was, and it's a private residence now, but it was called Prosperity School in Prosperity, Missouri. It's outside of Joplin.
Okay.
And Prosperity School was only a school for like 30 years. The mines played out, the area closed down, but I got to go there when it was a bed and breakfast. I stayed there 3 times, and it was on some TV show on Bio Channel also. And that place was just crazy haunted with kids, but there was no record of children's deaths in that area. No cholera, no sudden illness that killed a bunch of them, no accidents that killed, no tornadoes. We never did figure out why. And my theory is these people had their happiest times of their life when they were in elementary school. No responsibilities. Playtime every day. Every day was playing with the other kids. You loved your teacher. I think after they died, they went back to where they were the happiest. My own theory.
Yeah, I think so too. In fact, right now where my office is, a half a block away is a school of music. It's called the Music Arts Institute in Independence. It's a 3-story, and it used to be just a regular school, but now it's a music school. People have seen a girl about age 11, 12 years old with long blonde hair standing and staring out the windows. Okay. And when you're in the building, people hear a cello playing and they can't locate the source. In fact, I was in there one day with my daughter during a cello lesson that she was having with the instructor. The 3 of us were in a room by ourselves, and we hear this cello music playing down the hall. And I said, "Oh, isn't that nice? Is someone else having a lesson?" He goes, "No, that would be the ghost." So, yeah, that's schools typically, yes. and colleges too. I mean, I went to CMSU, and there's Yater Hall, who's famous. That's famously haunted. I stayed in that hall, of course, and now they've got the 3rd floor closed. And I understand it's because of all the ghostly activity that they can't control. And so now they just closed it, and they don't have anyone on the 3rd floor. Yeah. Wow. My granddaughter worked there. She was in there every day, and that's what she said happened.
Old school in New Haven that we got, and what had happened was this crew who had a TV whatever out of St. Louis wanted to try shooting what they called a sizzle with my police department as ghost hunters. And they had even went to Kansas with me trying to get some film because I refused to fake anything. And finally they said, can we just reenact something that has happened to you in the past so we can get this sizzle done and show it at New York or whatever? And I said, okay, I'll go along with that as long as it's never on the show. And we were in this old school, never heard it was haunted, never heard any stories about it. We walked into the door. This guy's walking backwards with the camera, filming us. My Sergeant Meg Parks was with me on the side. We all ghost hunted together. And she said, Dan, look down the hallway. And behind a frosted glass was a shadow going like this.
Whoa.
And you see that ghost waving at us? Well, we had quite a night in what I thought was an empty old building.
Oh my God.
At one point, we're doing our ghost thing with the rods and the K2 meters in one classroom. The whole crew runs out. I mean, the crew just jumps up and runs. And we're all looking at each other. So, all right, well, let's go see. We step out the hallway. They're coming back and said, didn't you see those two ghosts run down the hallway? No, I was facing you guys, remember? But, yeah, they took off and run. When they shot the sizzle, it actually had crew cam of them chasing something. At one point, the guy comes up to me and he just says, are you faking this? No, buddy, you're seeing what I'm seeing for the first time. So that school was haunted, and we had never heard a thing about it till we actually went looking for them.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we've got time to go on to another strange topic, and that is Dogman. Now, I never believed in this stuff. I never, those monster shows that you watch on TV, I never believed that was all set up. They never catch anything.
Right.
I'm like, nah, there's no Dogman. I was wrong.
Oh.
I did a UFO investigation where there was an abduction captured on film and trace evidence left behind. This was a big case. We had everybody in Missouri working on this, the lab, everybody. And the woman I got to know, this happened to her husband, but she also witnessed it. And so I got to know her pretty good. And one day she said, I feel compelled to tell you something. And she says, do you have any interest in Sasquatch? I go, oh, yeah, absolutely. I want to know about Sasquatch. She says, well, one day she suddenly had the idea that she wanted to go take pictures with her little Sony camera to go out and go near the one of the old airports here that was a military airport that was supposed to be shut down. It's called Richards Gebauer.
Okay.
But it is not shut down because there's all kinds of activity there. So, and we don't know what it is. Near there is a wooded area and a park and, a lot of land where there's nothing. No civilization anyway. So she started going there with her camera. She would usually have someone else with her, and she'd get out of her car. She wouldn't hike in the woods, but she would stand near the woods and take pictures. Okay. And pretty soon, somehow, I believe that she got this message to do this. She'd never thought of it before. She'd never even thought about Sasquatch before. And all of a sudden she does. They start appearing to her and letting her take pictures of them. And they get closer and closer. So she has this kind of relationship with this clan, if you will, of Sasquatch. Okay. One day she goes out. She sees a male Sasquatch lying on the ground next to a tree. He's either dead or very injured. And there are two little children with blonde hair, a boy and a girl. And they're holding the Sasquatch up, holding his head and shoulders. She's like, that can't be possible. They're not strong enough to do that. And then she looks up and she sees a woman with long dark hair sitting on a branch watching the children below. And she's taking pictures this whole time, but she's trying to figure out what the heck she's looking at because this is not normal. When a UFO, typical silver disc, comes down A man gets out. It looks like a human man, older. And he starts to walk over to the scene, but he's also looking at her, looking at him. And he comes right up to her and he says, "You can see me?" She goes, "Yes, I can see you." The man who was with her could not see or hear anything. She said, what is going on here? And he said, "This Sasquatch sacrificed his life to save you." She says, "What?" He said, "Look at your camera." And so she brought the camera up and she scrolled through the pictures. In one of the pictures, you see the Sasquatch lying on the ground with the two children. And then to the left, you see two large male Sasquatch holding back a dog man with the huge fangs. He was coming after her. And so he said, they are guardians of a portal that is in that location to keep the Sasquatch are the guardians. Mm-hmm. They were put there by these extraterrestrials who look like humans, but who obviously are very strong.
Okay.
And they are there to guard, and they were keeping the dog man away because the dog man can go in and out of the portals. So she showed me the pictures, but did not let me have the pictures.
Okay.
But I saw it. So a few weeks later, I was asked to go speak at a conference in Columbia, Missouri, which I did. And I had to stay at a hotel there. It was an older hotel. Mm-hmm. The minute we walked onto the floor that we were going to stay at, my sister and I felt this creepy feeling. And I said, I'll bet this place is haunted. I feel something around here. Didn't think any more of it. Went into the bedroom. We were tired. We start to go to sleep. And so all of a sudden, something tells me to open my eyes. And I did. Coming through the door, not opening the door, walking through the door is a 7-foot-tall dog man, humanoid body, wolf-like face with huge fangs. He jumps on the bed and gets right in my face and growls. Mm-hmm. And my instinct was I just jumped out of bed on the other side away from him and went to the corner. And I'm looking around the room. My sister said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, you're not going to believe this." And my sister she doesn't believe anything. She doesn't ever see anything. She's only seen one UFO her whole life, you know?
Okay.
And so I told her, and she goes, "Well, do what you need to do to get rid of it." She believed me by then. I said, "Okay, I will." And she says, "Where did it go?" I said, "I don't know, but I looked down. Underneath the bed come these hands with these long claws coming right at me, at my ankles." Mm-hmm. So I backed up further. Well, I did the only thing I could think of. I called on Valiant Thor, who I've been in contact with since 1985. Mm-hmm. I said, "You need to come here and save me from whatever this is." And he did. I instantly saw remote viewing. There was a huge ship right over the building, sent a beam of white light down, and then pushed that white light out through the whole building, and it pushed that the dog man away.
Okay.
And it went out. So, you know, I got a little tip about how to get rid of them if something's attacking you. Is white light, and then you just push it forward towards them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I haven't experienced anything since, and I don't want to.
So from the story you told, what it hits me is you've got who you called for help, almost like an angelic being, yes, who sent a white light to this almost demonic type creature because he's got a wolf face, human type body, but long claws, and got rid of it. Could this be the basis of some of our beliefs in demonics and Christian beliefs?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Dan. I think there's a lot more going on here than most people realize. Mm-hmm. That in our reality, it's not just 3D, it's multidimensional. And these things can cross dimensions. If they're normally in 5th dimension, they can come into our 3rd dimension sometime, and we can see them either as transparent, which a lot of people do, or fully formed.
Okay.
And this one was transparent, by the way. Mm-hmm. I didn't mention that, but it was transparent. It was really easy to see all the details. And so I knew it was something interdimensional. Yeah, it's but our
It's
world, I think you're onto something though, that in talking about demonic things and angelic things, it could
yeah.
be some things that have been interpreted that way, things like this, or reptilians,
Hmm.
same thing, easily interpreted as demonic or demons.
Well, of course, the Forteans, however you pronounce that,
Hmm.
all believe everything is connected. And what we have seen is, for instance, the Mothman case in West Virginia and Ohio. Um, you had ghost sightings, men in black, UFOs, cryptids, uh, like I said, ghostly kind of activities going on in people's homes, all together. And I mean, I could even understand the men in black and the cryptid, but what's with all the ghosts and stuff coming along also? Unless it's all connected together.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have been a proponent for the everything is connected theory for a long time, because you cannot rule out when there's a Sasquatch sighting and at the same time there's a UFO sighting,
Hmm.
or there's a Sasquatch walking with an ET
Yeah.
around a pond. Uh, and of course, the consciousness and contact idea is that this is all connected and has to do with our consciousness.
Okay.
As we raise our consciousness, we're able to see things in other dimensions. And, and that's what some of my classes are about that I teach.
Thomas Ferrario was telling me about the Marley Woods, and it had, of course, the UFOs, the
Mhm.
ghost activity. It's got the other stuff, but he mentioned a row of wolf-like creatures in robes walking into a cemetery. The guy actually stopped and shot at them,
Whoa.
and they just looked at him and continued walking and disappeared into the cemetery. Could this be all part of the same thing, or is this a battleground between the wolf people and the other creatures?
Well, it would seem so in some cases, at least in some areas. I have the stories that I receive are usually of a single individual
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to a dog man or a wolf man or a werewolf. I mean, it could all be the same thing, or
Yeah.
skinwalker, whatever. They're usually single individuals. But with the Sasquatch, a lot of times it's one, but a lot of times it's more than one as
Yes.
well. Or there's evidence of more than one when you see footprints, that they're going together.
Mhm.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
the
we've
next
got
thing,
some comments here. Some other people are
yeah,
really having some experiences that are amazing.
yeah, we should check that out.
Yeah. Gosh, we're almost out of time here, but let me read this one. A few miles from Richards Gebauer, in my car, I saw this black dog that looked like a German Shepherd and walking in front of me. It stood up and turned into a human. It continued into the woods. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melinda, we're going to have to talk. I've got to put that in my new book. Wow.
No kidding.
That's it. That's crazy. Yeah, there's and here's another one. Recently had a very vivid dream about a white werewolf. It was flying down at me from the sky. It landed right in front of me, was very aggressive, and had orange eyes. Now that's kind of bizarre. That's one of those things where
Yeah.
I don't think it's a dream. I think there's something going on there where perhaps a person is astral traveling out of their body at night, and their body's asleep, but they're
Okay.
they're awake, and then you have these experiences with in other dimensions.
Hmm.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's possible.
So
Wow.
much connected there. And before we go, we got to bring up the XCon because you've got such a huge group of speakers already. I interviewed a guy from Monstrous, Arkansas, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be a speaker there or something." It's
Yeah.
you're
We have
you're
some
doing
really a really good lineup of speakers
yeah.
this year, as usual. But we've got a lot of new ones this year as well, and other activities, and especially the ghost hunt. that I hope everybody wants to get involved in. Because if you want evidence of ghosts, that's the place to get it. We know it's going to happen. So I'll just say with 99% certainty, we're going to see something, and have your cameras ready. So, but Dan, thank you so much for joining me tonight, being my co-host. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling me. This is awesome. I love talking to the folks and listening to their stories as well.
Yeah, this has been great. Of course, we never have enough time with these things, and we might have to revisit this again sometime.
Guy with the local sheriff's department just checked in, and he has given me some stories about seeing creatures in the mountains up here in North Carolina. I wish we'd have had more time for it.
Well, get his name and everything, and we will get him on at another date as a
All
guest.
right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining me tonight, and we will see you here again next week right here on Onyx News.